Welcome back. So after many false starts, I finally am confident I can get through this part. I had many false starts as a result of a phenomena they call missing steps or lost steps in my machine because I didn't tune my motors correctly. And here's one of those false starts. Actually, this one's not too bad, but some of them came out pretty terribly because they're misregistered from top to bottom as a result of missing steps. And here's another one. So all total, I probably have about 60 hours worth of cutting in those 3 blocks, 3 parts there. So what I did was I set up Mach 3. Right now my cut program is set for a feed rate of 5, but I turn it down to around 4. Better safe than sorry. And I loaded the first cut file, which is the top course or top rough cut, and hopefully I can get through the top. I think it's going to run about 6 or 7 hours, and we'll see what happens. And I apologize for hand holding the camera, but next time I'll put it up on the tripod. I'll periodically check up on this thing. You can see I've got tape on my X and Y axes, and that's so that I can periodically come in. And if you've been following my videos, it's in my videos for lost steps and motor tuning, but I've got a little procedure where I can halt the Mach 3, halt the program by clicking feed, hold, then stop, and then go to 0 up here on the screen. And I can verify anywhere in the program that it does go to 0, hopefully. And if it doesn't, then I know I have lost steps or missing steps. I'm almost 99% certain that this time I'm going to get through this. So I'll get back to you in a little while. Welcome back. It's been a long time, no see. Took almost 9.5 hours to do this one part, and the important thing to look at is this: no missing steps, and this, no missing steps. And so this part is properly registered, and a program, when you run a program, it starts at 0 and it ends at 0. And so that's what happened. This returned to 0 on the X and Y, okay, but it returned to safe Z on the Z axis. As you can see, it's 0.15. That's no big deal. When we flip this part over, sorry about it, again, there's no tripod, but it's too hard to do with a tripod. So the next thing to do now with this part is to flip it over, flip the stock over, load a new cut file called rough cut bottom, and then we're going to cut the bottom. But before we do that, once we turn this over, we're going to go over to Mach 3, and we're going to click on go to 0, and that will properly position the Z axis at 0. Right now X and Y is at 0, but Z is not. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, I'm back just for a few seconds here. This is the top of the part roughed out. Looks pretty good. Actually, it's the best I've seen yet. So it says a lot for missing steps. You don't want to miss steps or lose steps, however you want to say it. I went ahead, before I flip this over, make sure that everything's clean in here. And I do use parallels, by the way, just as a spacer, so that I don't cut into the jaws of my vise, which already happened one time. So I'm going to put the spacers in here. I'm going to flip the block over. I'm going to align it with a parallel ruler here. That's how I've been aligning the block. And then I'm going to cut the bottom. See you later. Well, I'm back sooner than I thought. I drilled a nice hole here. And that's because I just loaded the wrong file. What an idiot. I loaded the finish bottom toolpath instead of the rough bottom toolpath. And jogged on over here and drilled the hole straight down, and luckily I didn't break the bit. I was able to stop the machine, realizing something wasn't right. And so now I got the right file loaded up again, and I'm going to see if I can't recover from this. I guess we'll see about 9 hours from now what kind of damage that hole might have done, if it done any damage at all. But this shit happens. Well, I'm telling you, it's a struggle. Welcome back. So this is about hour 3 on the bottom side. We're doing the rough cut. It's a thing of beauty when everything is working and coming along the way it's supposed to. I did turn the feed rate down a little bit. It's around 3 right now. I don't like the chatter right here in the corner, but better safe than sorry when you got a piece that's going to take 8 or 9 hours to cut out. You don't want any missed steps, any lost steps. So we're just going to let it cut and cut, and the next time I get back to you is when the part will be finished. At least the rough cut will be finished, and then we have to do a finished cut. See you later. Welcome back. Well, you probably can't see the entire part, but the part is absolutely perfect. Came out really nice. This is just a rough cut. Still have to do a fine cut. But I'm totally happy with this. There's no misregistration on the part. It's perfectly matched from top to bottom. And all I need to do now is wait for this end, which should be very, very soon. Very, very soon, because it's almost finished. And what I'll do after that is load up an 1/8" bit and load a new cut file, which will be, well, this is the bottom, so it'll be finished bottom. And then after that, it takes about 3 hours to run that. I'll flip it over again and I'll do the finished top, and then I'll have a finished part. And that's how it's done, people. It looks really great. I mean, the cost of the machine and the CNC and everything is well worth it if you're going to make complex parts like this in 3D. Alright, I'll get back to you. Okay, welcome back. Sorry about, having to hold the camera, but sometimes you just have to hold the camera. Can't do this with a tripod, but the part roughing is finished. It's absolutely perfect. The mill returned to 0. And how do I know that? Well, I got my tape on X and Y to tell me that. And I didn't do it on the Z because the Z really just only steps. I could right now, well, I will. I will do a go to 0 because right now the Z is at a safe level, 0.15. If you do a go to 0, it'll go right to the bottom of the part there, and you can see that the cutting tip, the end mill, is centered exactly in the part in both X and Y. Hopefully this is coming up in the camera. Where am I? There you go. The camera. In both X and Y. And of course my tape lined up, so that tells me that I missed no steps. I have no lost steps, that the part and the program executed exactly the way it should have. And there's no misregistration on the part as before. And off camera, by the way, something you didn't see. This is, let me turn this light off for a second. This is not the computer I started with. Somewhere along the line, I had a Presario over here. You can see it's opened up. It's opened up. It went blue line on me. It had been doing that a few times during the week, and I ignored it, you know, like all idiots do, until it finally bit me in the ass. And it did bite me in the ass, because when it died, it took out 2 drivers with it. I lost 2 stepper drivers. I don't know what it did, but whatever it did, it kept the drivers on, full on, and they burned up. Still smells like, you know, toasty electronics here in the garage. Luckily, I didn't have any good drivers, but I had a couple of bad ones, and I had more than a couple. I had like 4 bad ones, and I made 2 good ones out of that, and I was able to continue on cutting. I finally found out what was making them go bad, and it was that other computer I had, the Presario, must have been hanging up, just freezing, and whatever state the stepper was in at the time remained in that state, so it just burned the stepper motor up. Luckily, not the stepper motor, I'm sorry, the driver up. Luckily, it didn't damage any of the motors. When I talk about registration, by the way, just one, you see this? This is misregistered right here. This was all as a result of missing steps. This edge right here. This part does not have any edges on it at all. It's absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let the machine cool down a little bit, and then I'm going to chuck up an 1/8 inch bit, which we're going to use for the finish, and we're going to finish this part using an 1/8 inch bit and a finish cut file. These are all cut 3D cut files, by the way, if I hadn't mentioned it before. And I'm absolutely ecstatic over this. This is the product, by the way, of about 19 or 20 hours of cutting. So about 9.5 hours on one side, 9.5 hours on the other side. So when you commit to this, you better be ready to, you know, oversee this cut project, because it's going to be a long one. Alright, you don't have to actually sit in front of the machine, you know, for 9 hours, but you have to come in periodically and vacuum up and, you know, take a look and make sure everything is okay. So, alright, I'm going to end this. So, like I said, I'm going to let the machine cool down, and then I'm going to move on to the finish file. Back again. Once again, I apologize. I just cannot do this on a tripod. You can see the smoothing action. These are the finished cuts. Thing is, once you get done with this, there's two things you can do. One is you use a burnishing wheel, or geez, I forgot what they call them now. Well, it's an abrasive wheel, deburring wheel. I think 3M makes them. You can remove these ridges with a deburring wheel, or you can slather the part in Bondo and just sand it out. But one way or another, even after the finishing here, you're going to have to do something. Because as you can see, it leaves these striations here. Striations, or whatever you want to call them, lines. So it gives you the general shape of the part in pretty fine detail, but it's not a smooth surface. So I just wanted to break in to show you that. You can see where it's working its way up into this area here. Alright, so we'll go back to you later. Okay, so almost finished with the finish cut program for the bottom, and I broke a bit right here. I don't know why, but got caught up on something right here on the edge, and it broke. So what do I do now? What I did, as soon as I saw it break, I hit the space bar on my keyboard, space bar here, and that's the same as doing a feed hold, okay? So whether you're using a mouse or the keyboard, first thing you want to do is do a feed hold, and then I did a stop, okay? And I took the axis, and I didn't change X or Y, I only brought up the Z so that I can change the bit. And once I change the bit in the Z, I'll have to re-zero it, and I'll do that in a moment as soon as I get back to you. Okay, so I put a bit in there in the let me turn this fan off. I put a bit in there. It's just loosely inserted, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to 0 here on the screen. And again, I apologize, but some things you cannot do on a tripod. So I apologize for having to hold the camera in my hand. And so we're going to 0. Whoop. And I see it went past 0. So what I'm going to do is pull this back up. Page up. It's right on the edge, that's why I went past 0. It's not tightened down yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten down a little bit so it doesn't go past the edge. I'm turning the nut here. Now you can see it's right on the edge. And all I'm going to do is jog down, page down. Oh, went past it again. Page up. Sometimes it's really hard, especially if the corner is rounded off there, which it is in this case. So I'm going to just jog it over. I'm going to put it in a step mode. Remember, this is just a finish cut, so Doesn't matter too much about accuracy, but we want to be able to set to 0, set the z-axis back to 0 again. Hold on a second. I want to go to offsets. Okay, and here's the z-axis, and what I'm going to do is hit the tab key. Okay, I'm going to go in the jog step mode. See, it's in the step mode, and I'm going to jog this bit over a couple of steps here. So that this rounded edge doesn't interfere with it. That's enough, I think. I'm gonna hit tab key again, get rid of that. Oh, sorry, I gotta put it back in the continuous mode, and get rid of that window. And here's Z, it's about an inch above, and what I'm going to do is jog it down, page down on my keyboard. Oh, it's still going a little bit past. With small bits like this, it's really hard sometimes. Let me I'm going to go tab, I'm going to go step mode again. Sorry about moving, the camera and all that. I'm sure guys will complain about that. What I'm going to do is step it over in Y. Until I can get it. Actually, you know what? It doesn't matter because it's the Z. Doesn't matter if it's really right on the corner or not. All that matters is the Z axis. So I'm going to put it back in continuous here. I'm just going to jog over. Okay, and I'm going to jog again. Okay, now I'm on the flat. That's all that matters to set to Z. And so I'm going to do a page down, and I never want to leave a long length, okay, especially on a small mill like this, an end mill like this. I want to make it as short as possible, but still, be at least 50% of the workpiece, because that gives it added strength. Okay, and so now I'm just going to tighten it down. I'm going to hold it down on the body of the part, and I'm going to tighten the drawbar down. Okay, and that'll be my Z. And of course, let me see, I'll get rid of that. I'll have to re-zero the Z-axis on the offsets. Okay, and that should bring me right back to where I need to be to restart the program. So I'm going to have to put the camera down now. I have to tighten up the drawbar and do that thing, and I'll be back when I'm done with that. Okay, I'm back. What I did was I tightened the drawbar up. I've got the new bit resting on the top of the workpiece, and what I need to do now is, and don't forget this is the most important part, is you need to zero the Z-axis. Okay, and that's our new reference. And you could do this here in program run also. So what I'm going to do is go to 0, and that's 0. Okay, then I'm going to start cutting again, but I want to do it at the line where we broke the bit, and that's what, 51, 57. I'm going to take that back to 5100. Okay, I want to go back a little bit before we get to this. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to run 50. I'm going to enter 5100. Again, forgive me for the the wobbling camera and all that. All right, at 5100, you have to enter it. Okay, press enter. I'm going to say run from here. And you can see it re-queued the program back up again. And then I'm going to do a cycle start. And you always get this pop-up. Just say OK. Oh, most important, turn on the spindle. Okay. So we got this pop-up. We click OK. Going to go to going to go to some place before where the where the screw up was, where the bit broke, and we're going to do another cycle start, and it's going to start cutting from there again. It's off and running. Hopefully it's not going to break another bit. I see a little area here where it kind of chewed up the edge here. I don't know why. So I want to watch it now, and hopefully it's not going to break another bit. So I'll get back to you. Okay, so we're done. It's back at home position, and I've already loosened the vise because we have to take this out of here now, and this is what the part looks like. At least from one side. We've got to do this on the other side also. Get all the loose shavings out of there, but it is absolutely stellar. I am totally 100% absolutely satisfied with the way that cut. And so now what we got to do is we got to clean the table up here a little bit, get these shavings out of here, vacuum it up. We're going to flip the part over. As you can see, it's still the rough side here. And we're going to do a fine on that also. We don't want to lose our 0, okay? So right now we're at 0.15. We're not going to touch anything there, okay? This is where it ended. Remember, I have my tape here. A program starts at 0 and ends at 0. If it didn't, then you have a problem, okay? And you need to take care of that problem because it's not cutting right. Especially when you're cutting apart from two sides like this. So I'm going to break away right now. I'm going to do a little cleanup here with the vacuum cleaner, and then we're going to get back at this. Okay, so got everything cleaned up and vacuumed up. This is the part or the side we haven't done yet. I'm going to slide it. By the way, I do use parallels in here only to space it away from the vice drawers, so if anything ever happens I don't cut into the vice drawers. But I did at one time cut into the vice drawers. Okay, so when I flip the part over, what I've been doing is, bear with me here. I've been using a straight edge to align it like this. So I'm going to put a little friction on the workpiece. I'm going to pull it out a little further than it should be, and then I'm going to push it gently in so that it's in line with the straight edge, and in that way I know it's aligned properly. Now this is going to be a finish cut for the top side. We already did the bottom side. And you can see this is at 0, but the z-axis is at safe 1.5, I think is what it is, 0.15 inches up from the surface of the workpiece. So what we're going to do now is, well, first off, I finally got this thing on a tripod. What we need to do is load the right file, okay? The file we got in there right now is the finish cut for the bottom. We need the finish cut for the top for this iteration. So I'm looking for my mouse. Here we go. So we're going to do a file, load G-code, finish Toolpath, top, open. By the way, those of you that have watched this all the way through, you saw that I screwed up in the beginning. I loaded a finished toolpath when I should have loaded a roughing toolpath, and I drilled a hole in the workpiece erroneously. Well, I lucked out because where it drilled a hole erroneously, because I had the wrong file loaded up, it all got milled away. It's not visible and it didn't affect the final part, so it wasn't a big deal. Okay, so what we're going to do here now, first off, we want to start the part, we want to start the cut, we have to go to 0. Right now I said it's at safe Z right now. The mill itself and the bit. The bit is at safe Z, which is 0.15 inches above the workpiece. So what I'm going to do to get it started now, I already loaded the right file. I made sure I still have the same 0. I used a straight edge to flip the part over, so everything should be the same. And I got the right file, hopefully, loaded. What I'm going to do is command to go to 0. Okay, and that moved the bit down. Okay, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but it moved the bit down to the edge where it should start cutting. And so all I'm going to do is, well, first off, don't forget to turn the spindle on. And I'm going to click, cycle start. And I always have my mouse over feed hold just in case something crazy happens in the beginning. You know, like you load the wrong file. Well, all looks okay now, so I'm just gonna start cutting here. You can't see much from this perspective with a tripod, but we're pretty much going to go through what we did on the bottom side. It's just going to, smooth out the part, cut it and smooth it out. Takes about, I don't know, 2 hours, 2.5 hours to do this. So I'll get back to you, when it's necessary, but you've seen this before. Hopefully, this is interesting and gives you some confidence in what a mini mill can do when it's converted to CNC and it's adjusted correctly. Alright, I'll get back to you in a little while. Amazing. Hey, welcome back. So this here is finished. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, forgive me. Get it out of the vise here. Oof. Always expected. Always expected that. What do you think? Looks pretty good. Now, I got a couple of other machining operations I have to do on this part. I have to put a pin in here and a pin in here. And so I'm going to leave it in a block. That's why I have, these tabs. And so I'll cut out these pieces on my bandsaw right here, around here in the vicinity, and then here and here, so that I can still have the stability of the block and the alignment of the block to machine further. What I have to do is a cavity in the bottom here, and then a hole, and over here just a hole with the pin. But I'm totally, completely happy with the way this part came out. It's perfect. Perfect. No misalignment. It's absolutely perfect. Okay, so hope you enjoyed. That's the end of this segment, I suppose. Once again, this was done in Cut 3D. Cut 3D, and all done on my CNC mini mill. And it works great as long as you have it set up right. Cheers.